welcome to the Monday evening.
Ball like I do after dark. It's a must listen.
That's where I go to get my hoops fixed.
This is Field of 68 after dark.
Hello and welcome to the Friday evening edition of the Field of 68 After Dark. My name is Rob Dauster, and I have with me a couple of Big Ten experts here to help me break down the Big Ten Conference and where we kind of stand in it right now. Purdue last night took a loss in Happy Valley to Penn State. Hopefully it's going to be a good weekend for you Penn State fans out there. You beat Purdue and maybe you get a chance to go win a Big Ten football championship in Indianapolis tomorrow. We also had Indiana in action, and we are watching the end of this Illinois Northwestern game. There are currently 35 seconds left. It is tied at 56. Mike LaTulip, he is an Illini. He is sweating this thing out. So if you see him struggling over there, if you see him celebrating, that is a reason why. I'm going to hit Ant Wright on Michigan. I love what I've seen from Danny Wolf and Flagg. I want to know how good those two are together in his mind, because I know he's always going to have some strong opinions. But we got to open this up on the Big Ten's preeminent football school, boys, the Indiana Hoosiers. They went out and they picked up a 76-57 win over Miami of Ohio today. But it was not as pretty as a 19-point win might seem. They were able to grind it out down the stretch. They held Miami of Ohio scoreless for about a 6-minute stretch, Mike, but it was not the kind of dominating performance that I have come to expect out of this Indiana team. What do you make of the Hoosiers and where they are right now?
Yeah, I think, that game changed tonight when Suter went out for Miami. That's their leading scorer, had 42 the other night. He goes down with cramps. And as I see, overtime. But yeah, like this Indiana team, talent hasn't been the issue for them. I think, they have a lack of focus. They have a lack of effort. I think sometimes that Louisville game is burned into my skull, and it's hard to unsee that. But good teams, if you are a good team, you evolve throughout the season. So look, like there's no doubt that relative to expectations, they've underperformed. I'll give them some grace because it is somewhat of a new group. But I think my main concern outside of some of the effort communication stuff is the amount of overcomplicating there has been from a game plan and a scheme standpoint is crazy to me. And it's on both sides of the floor.
Elaborate on that. What do you mean by that, overcomplicating?
Yeah, so let's just start on the defensive end, right? Game in and game out. How hard do you want to make it on yourself? There's switching 1 through 5 against Louisville, who obviously smaller team, more skilled team. So you try to pull Omar Ballo out to the perimeter. Now he's having to guard off the bounce. Now you have your best, the leading shot blocker in the Big Ten away from the basket. There's that. There's some of the nail help stuff they've done where guy comes off the ball screen, the guy who's next in the gap will stand there and try to cut him off, and then they'll throw it over his head. And then you just purposely put yourself in rotation. And to me, if you're a team that goes into rotation, you better be a team that is built around speed. This team's built around size. So I don't know why you would want to be in rotation as much as they are. I don't know why you would want to switch as much as they are off the ball. Like, I think all the stuff that they're doing, they're trying to do so much defensively that they're spending so much of the game processing. And when you're processing, you're thinking. And when you're thinking, you're not talking. And there's a lack of communication. That's just on the defensive end. The offensive end, we'll get into, Miles Rice had a good game tonight, has to be better, has to be more consistent. But you got Omar Ballo as a guy that's at 7'1", and I just don't want to see him out on the perimeter as much as he is. Like, I don't know why, if in a two big lineup, you're going with the guy who's not as sure-handed with the ball compared to Malik Renew. I know he had 6 assists tonight, but he's the one that's like the fulcrum of your 5 out, going into the DHOs, making high-low passes like that. That's just overcomplicating things. So from a coaching standpoint, and we talk about the effort, the lack of focus, all that stuff, that's on the players. But from a coaching standpoint, your job is to not just add stuff and not just try to be as creative as possible. Your job is also to try to simplify things and try to find the low-hanging fruit that eliminates inefficiencies. Like Ballo's out on the perimeter. He's got 23 turnovers this year, and 17 of them are out on the perimeter. Just eliminate those and see where you're at the end of this. So look, like, the bottom line is there's stuff that needs to be fixed schematically, game plan wise, but also, like, if you're wearing that jersey, that's a rabid fan base that's starved to win and win at a high level like they did in the past. Play your ass off when you're out there. Like, Luke Goody right now should be playing 35 minutes a game until like a message is sent for everyone else. And I don't know. I'll stop there because there's a lot with them, and I'm not necessarily out on Indiana. They just need to get out of their own way.
Go ahead, Ant.
And Anthony Leo, put him out there too, bro. 20, 25 minutes at least. That is my guy. Because have you ever just watch him play? I feel like he makes so many positive plays out there, and it's never the wrong thing, ever. He's always doing the right thing, always making the right play. And you are right with a lot of that. And I kind of want to come back to like what you said. Like, you're not out on this team. I'm not either. I don't think their schedule did them much justice. I don't think that allowed them to really come into this year really chomping at the bit. I think they kind of saw a weak schedule. When you're looking at Miles Rice, how I feel like he like ran face first into a buzzsaw in Battle for Atlantis. You know what I mean? And just seeing what happened there, and if you take that out, like, he's been such a positive piece on this team. Like today, Indiana really wasn't feeling it, but he gave that energy in the first half to keep them going. I think he had like 14 points. Then even in the second half, it's not like he went out there trying to hunt for his. He was just going out there trying to just go out and get positive possessions. I agree with you when it comes to the passionate fan base. This team is hungry. It's been since 2002, since they've been to a Final Four. This team has 5 national championships. Last one was won like 87. I would say Indiana and Maryland are two of the hungriest fan bases out there for the Big Ten, who is like fiending for success, fiending for it. And it's kind of wild seeing how this team is built to be brute to be big. They're big and physical, but they're top 70 nationally in shooting the three. Why don't they shoot more? I don't get that either. Like, they should be shooting way more 3-point attempts than they do. If you're big inside and you're a decent 3-point shooting team, shoot threes and let your bigs be big. Go rebound the ball.
You know what? More than anything else to me, guys, like when I watch them play, it never feels like it kind of feels like they're, how there's NBA guys that are doing this because they love the lifestyle, right? And they love the money and they love the paycheck, and they're out there because this is what they do. They're basketball players and this is how they earn a living, right? And then there's guys that are out there because all they think about and all they care about is winning, and all they care about is hooping, and they will do anything to try to find a way to be able to get that one, get any edge. I feel like a lot of these Indiana guys this year, just watching them from afar, it's like they enjoy what being an Indiana basketball player entails. And it's not like they're out there. Like the Louisville one, Mike, I'm never going to be able to forget that. Like, you roll over and you die. They just quit. They were down by like 40 in that game. I think the final score was by 28 because they hit 3 threes in like the last minute to be able to make it like somewhat respectable.
Get those metrics.
Yeah, right. I can't get that out of my head. And I know you're over here sweating because we got an overtime game with Illinois. But I can't get that out of my head. And there's a level of there's a level of purpose that you got to play with. And I want to see that at India. I want to feel, if I was an Indiana fan, I would want to feel like those guys cared about the outcome of every single possession the same way that I would care about the outcome of every single possession. And sometimes it doesn't feel that way.
Well, I think too, part of it, there's a couple guys that I don't want to necessarily like single out, but Mackenzie Mbako and Bryson Tucker, those are two guys that I think when they come into the game, I don't know. It's like there's not a plan offensively. They're trying to do a lot offensively, right? There's some high ball screens, there's some high low stuff, there's some floppy stuff, there's some screen rescreen stuff, roll replace stuff. Like there's all this stuff that they're doing, but there's not, for guys like Mbako or Tucker, there's not like predictability within your role. So then you just opt for like, I'm just gonna shoot the next time I touch it. And that's what I see. It's like there's not a cohesive plan offensively. So it's like it turns into, if it's not like Miles Rice coming off the ball screen, getting downhill, hitting a pocket pass to a short roller, like it just ends up being pass, shot. And I haven't shot in the last 3 minutes. I'm getting one up here. When I come off this pin down, I don't care if there's a hand in my face, I'm shooting it. And that's where like some of the disjointedness comes in. So I think all this stems from like you have to simplify things. Like too many teams in college basketball right now are like getting new guys and then completely overcomplicating their system. You need to start basic, understand what you have, and grow out from there. Like that's what I think Indiana's biggest problem has been, is they're not keeping things basic and growing from there. They're trying to like do all these different things defensively, do all these different things offensively. And at that point, it's like, who are you? Like, and what predictability do you have in your roles?
And is Indiana a football school now?
No, no, absolutely not. Absolutely not. SIG has done great things, bro. Great things. They're about to, 11-1 playoffs. That's absolutely insane to even talk about, from being like an Indiana football program. That's just wild to me. Just wild to me. But like, Matt, do you think Indiana is? Do you think they're trying to appease too many people, or like, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I feel like they're trying to feed everybody, and in turn, nobody's getting full.
And well, part of that starts with level setting expectations going into the season. Like you got to have guys that understand what their role is before you get the season started. And granted, that stuff can change and that can take on different life forms throughout the season. But like, I don't know. I'm just thinking to myself, I'm watching the game against Miami tonight, and then even some of the like bright spots that they had in Atlantis, there weren't a ton, but the ones that they had was just like, hey, let's just play drop. Let's keep our shot blocker by the rim, right? Miles Rice, let's get him in ball screens. Let's give him some space to operate. Like dumb it down is the wrong term to use, but like simplify things, man. And
they give that dude no space.
I think
no space to operate.
Yeah. None. And like he didn't have a ton last year at Washington State. He had to do a lot off the bounce last year at Washington State. But this year it's like, why, instead of having Ballo up top and have him be the guy who catches it, pops out, looks for high lows, goes into DHOs, goes into zooms, I don't understand why that wouldn't be Malik Renew as a short roller. And then if they're worried about Ballo's spacing, why not put Ballo in the short corner? And now you got short roller Renew. If big on Ballo commits uphill, you got a lob, you got a dump off. I feel like it's right there for them. That's why I don't think Indiana's far off. It's just right. There's tweaks here and there, but the game plan's one thing. You have to start playing hard consistently and play like you care consistently.
I do wonder a little bit if some of that
you through the screen, bro.
Yeah, I think with Renew, I just wonder if some of that is he was promised that he's not going to be playing the 5. And if he's the guy out there setting the ball screens, there's a little bit of like, that's me playing the 5. So I wonder if that's part of it as well. That's just me speculating and sitting here playing armchair analyst. I want to move to the other school that's in the state of Indiana, which is definitively not a football school. And I think we can all say that about the Purdue Boilermakers. They lost to Penn State, and the final score was 81-70. But anybody that watched that game knows that was an ass kicking, man. Like Purdue, I think, was down by 27 at one point in the second half. They had 24 turnovers as a team. Braden Smith did not look like the All-American point guard that we were promised this season. Trey Kaufman-Wren had 7 turnovers and was productive, but he wasn't the same guy. And it was not, I guess the way that I would phrase it, and it was the kind of performance that I would expect from this Purdue team, knowing that they have limitations when it comes to creativity offensively and guys that can deal with the kind of ball pressure that you're going to get out of a Mike Rhodes defense. How concerned should we be about where Purdue is right now in this moment, given that they've basically lost to the same style of team twice now?
Yeah, I mean, like they've had, I think their biggest hole coming into this year was trying to get someone as a secondary ball handler next to Braden Smith. And who was that going to be? I think they have to learn from this. If you didn't learn from Marquette, which they clearly didn't, you got to learn from round 2. Because if you watch the Marquette game and watch the Penn State game through 34 minutes, it was the exact same play. Exact same thing. I think they have to move C.J. Cox to a more prominent position in the rotation, whether that is using him as a combo to go back and forth between the 1 and the 2, getting Braden Smith off the ball some. I think that's where like Lance Jones came in and did such a great job last year of just giving Braden, 1, giving him some rest off the balls, 1. 2, now Braden Smith was going to be in more scoring roles coming off of scoring cuts within the offense. That's where they needed him yesterday. Because once he got the ball out of his hands, now there was a non-creator trying to create, or they got the ball to Trey Kaufman-Wren, who had to either create or make shots himself. I think he had 6 or 7 turnovers last night. It just did not look good. The only big positive from this is that there are no other teams like Penn State in the conference who can do that at that level. Even if they tried, that's not going to be their identity, and they're not going to do it as well. That's Marquette's identity. That's Penn State's identity. If they're a 4 seed and they get one of those types of teams as a 13, they may be in trouble. I'm not going to lie. Not going to lie. Or if they're in that 3-14 and that 14 is an MFer, done. Round 1, done deal. So they're going to have to figure it out. I'm not out on Purdue and all that stuff, but they need to find that secondary ball handler, and that secondary creator cannot be TKR. I think they just got to get CJ Cox a much more prominent role, lengthen his leash a bit, and just kind of let him rock out a bit for the next couple weeks or so.
Yeah, Mike, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a good point, because it's the initial point that I wanted to make was, I'm obviously not concerned about Purdue, but I am concerned about Purdue against these types of teams. So, like when they've played these 2 true road games against these types of teams, they've looked like a middle of the road Big Ten team. I don't think they are that. I think they're still one of the top teams in the league, but I think, thinking about the Marquette game, thinking about the Penn State game, every team in every game, you're focused on, okay, shot selection, taking care of the ball. That's always, top of mind for any team. But it's especially important when you play against these teams, and it's especially important when you are a team like Purdue playing against these teams, because Penn State came into this game forcing 18 turnovers a game. And to me, the way that you combat a team that turns you over at that rate is getting stops. You have to get stops. And you have to defend without fouling, and you have to finish and clear the glass. Get out in transition. Spread them out a little bit more. Don't let them get their matchups. right? All those things. When you aren't getting stops, they set their press. They set their half-court defense. And now you're at their mercy, man. Like Ace Baldwin's that good on the ball. They're that good blowing up ball screens. They're that good with their rotations, with their length. And that's where I worry about Purdue is defensively. Because there's always obviously all the talk about the guardrail that Zach Edey was offensively. I think they miss him more defensively because that's a guy that blocked 85 shots last year, probably altered hundreds more, and probably deterred teams from driving into the paint hundreds of times more as well. So
and he ended possessions.
Like
he ended possessions in defensive rebounds. And
there was less of that perimeter is more vulnerable this year. Guarding the ball, Fletcher, Lawyer, Braden Smith, if you offense, defense, they probably lean more offense than they do defense. So you have to be able to guard the ball, cut off angles, rotate, be active, all those things. Purdue's a below the rim team, offensively and defensively. Trey Kaufman-Renn has one block shot this year. They're not stopping anybody, and no one really feels deterred when they're going to the rim against Purdue. So that's a big piece of it for me. Like Braden Smith, we can get into all this other stuff, but it starts defensively for this Purdue team because there's times against teams like that where they look outmatched athletically.
Well, they are. That's why they look it, because they are outmatched athletically. I want both of you guys to answer this, and you got 30 seconds each to be able to answer it. Then we got to get to break. We'll start with you, Ant. Is there room to criticize Matt Painter for? I understand what he wants to do in terms of bringing in freshmen and developing them, building their continuity, building their chemistry, building stuff from within, right? Is there room to criticize him for not going into the portal and basically getting another Lance Jones?
Go ahead, Ant.
Yes and no. Yes and no. He's had the best team in the league the last 3 years. He won the Big Ten the last 2 years. So he gets a lot of leeway. But saying that, you saw how Lance Jones took that backcourt to another level last year. And, I think he felt that Jakari and CJ could be that guy right away. In addition, with Braden Smith becoming, an upperclassman at this point and someone who could be an All-American, probably felt that it wasn't needed. And he wanted to focus on the future, knowing that he had Braden and Fletcher for just 2 more years. So I will give him that leeway because of how dominant Purdue has been over the last several years. But I really would have liked him to go out and get a legit starting off guard, guard, even someone to just come in the game who had a lot of experience.
Yeah, I won't add too much to that. I think he deserves a ton of leeway as well. He's earned that, I think, as a coach in this league, how he's sustained winning. And yeah, just like you need a secondary ball handler, goes back to my point as well. You need a guy like Lance Jones who's willing to take on one of the best defensive assignments as well and keep guys out of the paint. So surprising that he didn't go back to the well after how much success they had with it last year. But I think Matt Painter is, for me, he's pretty free from criticism at this point. They still have some really good wins this year.
Yeah, here's what I'll say. They lost a generational talent, a back-to-back National Player of the Year, and a guy that was as dominant as any college basketball player that I can remember seeing since I've been doing this, and I've been doing this for 15 years, right? And he's still got a team that's ranked in the top 10. And I think they're like 17th on KenPom right now. They're top 20 in all the metrics. They're a top 20 team in America, point blank period, after losing Zach Edey. We can't criticize Matt Painter as badly as I would like to be able to have that hot take. Listen, we got to talk about Illinois LaTulip. They just lost in overtime and I'm going to quote our producer, Trevor Valise. They lost to the YMCA Club of Evanston. We're going to have to get to that as soon as we get back from break. If you haven't heard by now, we have partnered with BetMGM for this season. We'll be using BetMGM lines to make all of our picks, and we'll have special offers for the listeners and the viewers. Download the BetMGM app and sign up using the bonus code FIELD. Deposit at least $10 and place your first wager on any game, and you'll receive up to $1,500 in bonus bets. Go download the BetMGM app and use the code FIELD today. Now that college basketball season is back in full swing, I need to remind you guys about our partners over at Autograph, where the real college hoops fans reside. The Autograph app curates all of the best content for every sports fan and every sports fan's favorite team. Podcasts, blogs, analysis. It's all there without the nonsense from the talking heads that don't actually watch the games. And there's a bonus. Consuming content on the Autograph app earns you coins that can be redeemed for rewards for things like no-fee tickets or signed jerseys from your favorite players. There are a couple new features in the app that I need to let you guys know about as well. Autograph Replay gives you a quick hitting summary of the previous day's news so you can keep track of all the important things going on with your favorite teams. And Autograph Rooms allows you to chat in real time with the true voices of fandom within your team's community. So go to the link in the description or scan that QR code on your screen and download the Autograph app. Well, welcome back to the Field of 68 After Dark. Rob Dauster, Mike LaTulip, Ant Wright. We are heavy Big Ten tonight. We talked about Indiana earlier. We broke down Purdue and some of the question marks that we have with them. We gave a shout out to Mike Rhodes and Penn State for a really, really impressive performance. The Indy Lions are 8-1 on the season right now. Some people are saying that might be the best sports program right now in the Big Ten. Ant, that's what people are telling me. We got to talk about Illinois and Northwestern here. Northwestern just came back. I believe they were down 10 with 7 minutes left in the second half. They came back and they won in overtime against the Illini. I'm very high on the ceiling of what this Illinois team can be, but I think there's also moments. We saw it down the stretch tonight. I think we saw it in the Alabama game, right, where there are some question marks defensively. There are some concerns I have about maybe the decision-making of some guys in their backcourt. Kai Boswell, I think, has that dude, I think, has the biggest peaks and valleys of any player in college. When he's good, he is awesome. And when he's not right, there's a lot of very, very real questions about what is going on between the ears there. What do you make of Illinois? I don't think there's any shame in losing in overtime on the road in league play. But this is still another loss that Illinois has taken. What do you make of this team? Where are they at right now?
Yeah, I mean this team. We've talked about it a few times this season. I mean they were never going to be a finished product in the month of December. Probably not the month of January either. I mean they're going to be a February, March team just with the youth. It's your first really true road game, conference play. Northwestern's been so good against ranked teams over the past few years. They've had Purdue's number over the past few years. And so we knew going into this, it was going to be a hostile environment. And I think what I was thinking going into the game was, okay, the one thing with this Illinois team that I saw in the Ole Miss exhibition, that when teams aren't in drop and when teams are switching and really kind of hard hedging, they don't necessarily have a guy that is like a Terrence Shannon head down blow by guy. So, they need to be able to pass out of it, find the right guy out of rotation and then be able to knock down shots. Like they're going to have to, if they're a team that's going to shoot 34 threes, you got to make them at a higher rate than what they're making them right now. I think they're around, after tonight, probably around 33% of the season. And they just have better shooters than that. So that's going to be one of those things where if you're going to live and die by the three, if you're going to take them, you want to make a decent percentage of them. So I think there's just been unbelievable flashes. I mean, tonight, Yaga's shown us again, 20 points, whatever ended up being, 10 rebounds, 7
Some
assists.
of the step backs that he hit were just ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not comparing him to Luka, but there is something about when he gets to that left hand. Like that left hand, that's where he's most comfortable getting that left hand, that step back. Vicic has been great. Will Riley's been really good. I mean, these are three guys that are playing their first year of college basketball, and they're really like your three go-to guys. So that's going to take some time. And again, I don't think there's any necessarily shame in losing this game tonight. You want to get one against a rival like that. You want to get one to start off Big Ten play because it doesn't get easier in your next one. Right, you got Wisconsin coming to Champaign on Tuesday.
Mm-hmm. Ant, go ahead.
How you feel about Hummerkaus not attempting a two at 6'8", 6'9", and how skilled he is? Like that's something that like kind of has been surprising to me is his twos to a threes ratio this year. Just watching this film, I'm like, okay, he can operate in the mid post. I'm thinking like he's perfect for like booty ball, right? Like, hey, get him in the post. He could be a three. He can get a bad switch. And with how big Tom is, he can shoot the ball. So Tom doesn't always need to be around the block. And how good of a passer he is, too. Like, geez, I didn't see him being such a good passer. But he's had so many sexy passes this year, bro. So someone like him on top of the key is a cheat code because he can shoot it, he can create without even having to dribble. But now it leaves the blocks wide open for guys with matchup advantages to just go get a touch and go to work. And I feel like teams are going to start putting 6'3", 6'4", 6'2" guys on him because all he wants to do is spot up, and there's no advantage and there's no disadvantage there, right? So, like, kind of back to you, like, did you see him being more balanced and not like, hey, go spot up type of deal?
I thought what you thought, right? Like, watching his film at Evansville, he got it in so many different ways. And I think what you're seeing right now is just the psychology of a guy that is adjusting to not having the ball in his hands very often. And so I think he's just kind of fell into the trap of being a bystander a lot and being like, hey, this is just kind of my home in the corner. This is my home on the shape up on the wing. And we saw this last year. Marcus Damask didn't turn into Marcus Damask until like the first week of January. Was when they shifted. They had enough data points and they said, this is actually a really high percentage, thing for us to do is get him in the mid post, back downs, Barclays, whatever you want to call it. And they just went to work with it. They spammed that. Now you got so much more optionality because of how KJ is in ball screens. You got so much more optionality with the pick and pop with Tomislav. Like, I think there's an avenue for him to do that. And for him to be able to do that, like, there's got to be times throughout the game where he takes it upon himself and not necessarily having his number called, just says, hey, I slipped out of the screen. I got a switch. I got it here. Instead of just saying I'm 6'9", rise up over this guy. Let me see if I can back down a little bit. Let me see if I can draw two, make a pass out of it. So that's what I'm talking about. Like, this team isn't, I don't think, close to where they're going to be because all these other things are possible, right? That can be figured out, that can be implemented. So the skill level, the talent level is, I don't think you can question it at all. It's just a matter of, what's the most efficient way for us to play offense? The ball screens have been really good for them, but are there other change-ups that you can throw in there?
Right. Yeah. And this team is just so young too, man. Mm-hmm. This team is just so young too, bro. It's just the one thing that I did like in the first half is that the way that they can adjust to the way that their playing style is. Even though the game was slowed down a bit, they still were in command in the first half. And I think someone like that where you can not only run teams out the gym with your scoring, but you can also play grinded out basketball. I think that was the biggest takeaway to come away with tonight if you're an Illinois fan and you want a positive to hold on to.
Well, go ahead, Rob.
Well, I was going to say, like, I'm hesitant to make this into something that is too negative, given that, like, Northwestern's a top 70 team in America. Like, probably if they get hot in Big Ten play, there's a chance that they can dance this season. Brooks Barnheiser's
they're certainly not the preseason 16th ranked team in the conference. I'll tell you that.
No, they're not. Like, they're a good team, and
they're not missing the Big Ten tournament. No shot.
Yeah, like they made the. I mean, look, they got to overtime, and they won the game in overtime in their own gym with probably like two guys that are veterans that may be the two most experienced players on the floor that were getting minutes in that extra frame. So I'm hesitant to make this too negative on Illinois. Like I still think the Arrows. I'm still in on this Illinois team long term. It's just you're going to take lumps in conference play. That's what the Big Ten is. I do want to talk about the Big Ten kind of as a whole with you guys now. And Mike, I'll go to you first, and Ann, you can kind of respond to what he says. But where do you stand on like who who the favorite. Like I've been really impressed with Michigan. I know they took that loss to Wake Forest, but what they did to Xavier was an absolute ass kicking. And then the other night against Wisconsin, going on the road and winning that game the way that they won that game. The Danny Wolf and Vlad Golden pick and rolls are just like, it's pure. Like I love watching them play. Oregon, I know you love Oregon, Mike. I love this Oregon team. Maryland the other day beat Ohio State. I think they were up by 45 in the second half. They were tripling them up at one point in the second half.
It was 63-23 at one point, and I think it got worse than that. But seeing that was wild.
That's crazy to be down 63-23 as a Big Ten team, right? I don't know, man. I feel like this is a year where you can have 6 teams finish like 14-6 and all tie for the Big Ten regular season champ. Like I feel like that's what this kind of season is going to end up being in this league.
Yeah, I think, it's interesting because the national perception, because this is what's going to happen. The Big Ten's going to get like 11 teams into the tournament, and everybody's going to be going crazy because they may not have like the top end talent, or they might have like the top end power that like a Duke or an Auburn or some of these teams, and like Duke in the ACC, Auburn obviously in the SEC. They may not have that top end team, but I swear to you, like 4th through 14 in this conference might be separated by 2.5 games. I think there's a lot of like good teams. There's a lot of good teams in this conference. So to me right now, who's playing the best? It probably is Oregon. Like I think it is. Because I will say, like they were set up for a letdown against USC coming back from the Players era. That was set up for them to go into a sleepy arena.
Hey, they kind of had a letdown too, and then they found a way to be able to win at the end.
Yeah,
and they
the first half was brutal.
That was Dana Altman. Got the cover, man.
Yeah, and just to give Oregon their flowers real quick, I think coming into the season, and Rob, we obviously talked about them, but coming into the season, I didn't think that, I was really high on them, but the way I thought about them having success is different than the way they're having success right now. Like Shellstad was great last game against USC, but by and large, throughout the course of this season so far, he hasn't taken that step that I think we envisioned him taking. It's been all the other pieces. It's been Bamba like simplifying his game, Brandon Angel being his efficient self, Bartholomew off the bench, JJ and Tracy's been awesome, getting downhill, getting out on the break, and they play their asses off. That's why I love watching Oregon. Biddle's great as well. Biddle, I said it the other day, like I forgot what I said. I said Biddle's like the Jack Nungy of Luke Cornett's. I think something like that. Like he's good.
That is the most
like he's
Big
a really good
thing
big.
I've ever heard in my life, man. Like,
he's a good big. And so there's a lot to like about the Oregon team. So I'll shut up and pass it to Ant here.
It's a great line. I love that. Go ahead, Ant.
I do like Oregon, man. I like that team a lot, but it's there are 16 teams in this conference that you need to play. You need to be ready to play, and if you don't, you will lose. I think both Minnesota and Washington are the two where you could be average and still win, even at their place. But it's funny how both of those teams have like an all Big Ten type of player on there who you have to look out for, which is weird how they're both kind of similar in that regard. But there's no elite teams. But what I do like about this conference right now is that they're shaping up to get like 4 or 5 teams in that like top 4 seed range. And I think that's what you need to make a run, right? You saw this a couple years ago where the Big Ten had like 7 or 8 teams, but 6 of those teams were in the 7-10 or in the 8-9 game.
Yeah.
And people they're like, the whole Big Ten is out. Well, they had to go against a 1 seed or 2 seed after 2 days. So them being able to set up themselves to be one of the top seeds that's when you're going to get those runs. That's where you're going to have more teams in that second weekend to be able to get to a Final Four, to be able to get that national championship that's been elusive since, 2000?
2000.
Knocked on the door plenty of times. But, I'm looking around college basketball right now. I'm like, yeah, I think Auburn's still the best team. I think Duke's very good. I think Kansas is going to get better. But, saying all that, I think that on a neutral, I think the Big Ten can't compete with any of those teams. Honestly, there's nobody who's truly scary to me.
This is the best way to kind of sum up the Big Ten to me, right? There's nobody, and I know Ken Palm's rankings aren't perfect right now, but there's no Big Ten teams in the top 13 of Ken Palm's rankings. But they have number 14, number 15, number 16, number 17, number 18, and number 19. And then they have 6 more between 27 and 45. It's just like it's so jumbled at the top that there's going to be a lot of teams that are just going to win because they are on their home court. You mentioned Duke, and I want to ask you real quick. We're gonna pivot here. We're gonna go to the ACC. I'm going to call it audible,
right.
But I started to say this the other day. I'm getting a little frustrated with the discourse around Cooper Flagg because I feel like people are forgetting that this dude is supposed to be a high school senior, right? Like he's putting up these ridiculous numbers. He's 17 years old. He doesn't turn 18 for another 2 weeks. When he is, I said this the other day, when he's as old as Janai Broom, he will be on his second NBA contract. Think about that. When he's as old as Janai Broom, he will be on his second NBA contract. And he just had 22-11, 4 assists, 3 blocks, 2 steals, 0 turnovers, and he went over the number 2 team in college basketball with a bunch of guys that are like 4 years older than him. I understand that he doesn't look like Zion Williamson, right? He doesn't look like Kobe Bryant out there. Great. He's 17 years old, and look what he's doing. Like, what are we talking about?
Yeah, absolutely, man. It's the divisive rhetoric is truly sickening. I can't stand the fact that you got someone like Cooper Flagg, who's a legit reclass, right? There's some guys who reclass and they're like 18 or 19 already, right? So it's like they're like back where they were supposed to be. This is a legit reclass. Like this dude, if he was a senior in high school, nobody would say a thing. What he's doing right now is so special. And at the same time, I can admit I also don't think he's generational, which is fine. And then, but there's so much toxicity, and why is it on his head where you have people are going to take his name and then clickbait a bunch of garbage, which is going to make people so divisive on him that they're going to trash his game, they're going to trash his name, they're going to say, oh no, he's not this, he's not that, he can't shoot, he's too skinny, all these things. You have the same people who are bashing his game but try to tell you that Bronny's a first-round pick. The same people. Like, yo, bro, like you can't talk NBA draft, you can't talk NBA, you can't talk basketball. Like, and it's all for clickbait, it's all for traffic, and it's just absolutely sickening how they are trying to prop him up just to try to tear him down. And what makes his game is not all the sexy jump shots off the bounce and all that. It's not that. It's what Indiana needs. The dude plays with purpose on both ends all the time. Like, have you ever watched Cooper Flagg and not felt his energy? Have you ever watched Duke and felt like, oh, Cooper's in the game? Like, no, he's gonna let you know he's in the game. Whether it's a deflection, whether it's a dive on the floor, it's crazy.
Yeah, like I said that there's guys that it feels like they show up because they enjoy the lifestyle that comes with being a basketball player in the NBA or these blue bloods. That ain't Cooper Flagg, man. He's there to play ball, Mike. He's there to hoop.
Yeah.
And that is the only thing that he wants to do and the only thing that he cares about.
And kick your ass while doing it too.
Yeah, like I think I talked about this the first After Dark that I was on, that he's going to have a game this year where he scores like 12 points and has 7 rebounds, and people are going to be saying, how is this the number one pick? But the fact of the matter is, he's arguably the best defender on the number one rated defense in the country as a 17-year-old. That is why all of these teams, you know what NBA teams want? They want freaking basketball players. They want like not every guy. I mean, you look at, there's been number one picks. There's been Anthony Bennett's. There's been Markelle Fultz. There's been guys that have been number one picks that didn't turn out to be generational, didn't turn out to be really pan out in the league at all. That is not going to happen to Cooper Flagg. Cooper Flagg is going to pan out in the league, but he's going to pan out in his own way. He may end up being an all-star. He may not, right? Like, look at kind of like, I don't think, would you have thought that about Lauri Markkanen? They're different players, but like him coming in to a team, right? If he goes to the Wizards, I don't know, but there's so many teams that I think he would be an asset for because he defends at the level that he does, because of the IQ. You know, Duke can play at the pace they can play because he can rebound and go and make reads in the open floor. Like I love watching him because he plays the game the right way. And I know people will hear that and be like, well, you need to be more than that if you're the number one pick. But I've watched all these guys that are at the top of this draft, and I'd still take Cooper Flagg because of what he brings to the table.
Yeah, look, the generational label is one that frustrates me because, like, how do you define that, right? You know, if Cooper Flagg ends up being, let's just say, Jaylen Brown, like not the exact same player, right? But let's just say that he ends up being an all-star that is the number 2 on a team that wins an NBA championship. Is he not, like, does he not live up to the number 1 pick standing then? Let's say he ends up being Scottie Pippen, the greatest sidekick in the history of sidekicks in sports, right? Does he end up being a bust then? Is he not generational? Scottie Pippen was a top 50 player ever. Like, if that's what his path ends up being, is it wrong? Like, that's just, it's who he is as a player, man. You just kind of have to accept it and deal with it and roll with it and enjoy what you're seeing from him while you can in college, because he ain't going to be here for very long, fellas. We got another 4 months.
4 more months.
And then he's out. He is out the door. Listen, we got to make some picks. We're going to be playing a game here. We're going to be making predictions for 10 games that are going to be played on Saturday and Sunday. We got to get into Kentucky and Gonzaga and Marquette and Wisconsin. We're going to preview those real quick too as well. We're going to do all of that after this message from our sponsors. Now that the college basketball season is in full swing, you need to make sure that you have access to the best betting tool on the market, the Rhythm app. Spelled RITHMM, is a data-backed app that uses AI and analytics to identify inefficiencies in betting lines and the player prop market that will allow you, the user, to profit. You can create customized, analytics-driven betting models tailored to your personal preferences as a bettor. Users have access to up-to-the-second against-the-spread data. And if you're like me and you understand pictures better than numbers on a screen, Rhythm's internal trend analysis provides you with the kind of graphs that will allow you to evaluate past results and project future performance in a visual way. Every Division I college basketball team is included in the Rhythm's metrics. Free subscribers to the Field of 68 Daily will get 25% off for a Rhythm subscription. Use the QR code on the screen to sign up or download at the link in the description. Welcome back to the Friday evening edition of the Field of 68 After Dark. My name is Rob Dauster. I got Ant Wright with me. I have Mike LaTulip here, and we are going to preview some games. We're going to play a little bit of a game here ourselves as well. You're going to see a QR code pop up there above Ant's head. If you scan that, you're going to be able to jump in and make your picks as well. You can compete against us. You will be able to see if you are actually smarter than the people on the Field of 68. And I would hope that you're smarter than us, especially hope that you're smarter than me. I've donated quite a bit of money to BetMGM. All the money I donated, they gave me this nice little water bottle as in exchange. So I will always have that. It's going to be the most expensive water bottle in the history of water bottles. We'll leave it at that. Let's
One
talk
for
about
one.
these games, fellas. Yeah, exactly. I want to start with Kentucky and Gonzaga. That's going to be Saturday at 10 o'clock. They're playing that in Spokane Arena. It's not going to be on the Gonzaga campus, but it's going to be in Spokane. Mike, I'm going to go to you first. Then, Ant, you go ahead. Just kind of break down what you think the key matchup is in this game.
Yeah, this is one of my favorite matchups of the season so far because I think these two teams are almost like a carbon copy of each other in certain ways. And so, like the pace, the skill level, ability to shoot it. I think both these teams compete at a high level. To me, I mean, the real question is going to be Lamont Butler's health going into this game. I mean, is he available? How available is he? But also, I'm looking at Gonzaga has played 4 high major opponents. They've also played San Diego State. They played Davidson. Teams are shooting 24% from 3 on them. So, and you go back, you watch it. Teams are missing shots. So I wonder if there's a course correction in this game. Does Kentucky kind of break the seal and have a barrage of threes against Gonzaga, stay in the game, potentially win the game? I'm going Gonzaga with this, but I could see a world where, Kentucky does rain some threes down. Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a high level game. This is if you're a fan of offensive basketball and competing at a high level, this is an incredible game.
Ant?
Kentucky can shoot the rock. We're going to get our first sense of Kentucky, coming off of a loss. This game was in Seattle, high-level basketball. Gonzaga, their one loss was because of Javon Small. He was the best guard in that game. He was better than Nemhard. He was better than Hickman. Like Mike said, we'll see if Butler's ready to go, but I think O has takeover ability as well. I love Kobe Brea. I love this backcourt matchup, and I want to see what Jackson Robinson does. Kentucky's biggest games. He's had Duke and Clemson. He's 5 or 17 in those games. I swear against Duke, he was running around in circles. I didn't know what he was doing out there. He's got to show up when the lights are at its brightest, or this is going to be an easy dub for the Zags. I do have Gonzaga in this game, but Kentucky can really shoot the ball. They run very good offense. I can't wait for this game. I agree with Mike. Like, this is one of my favorite matchups of the year so far.
Mike, spreads 5.5 in this game. Are you willing to take Kentucky as a dog, money line plus 190? Where are you at? Give me your pick. What do you got? Who's winning this game?
I got Gonzaga, and honestly, I got Gonzaga covering as well. You've seen these games in Seattle over the years. It's always a great environment. I'll go with Gonzaga not only to win but to cover.
Yeah, I'm taking Kentucky. Give me the dog. They're coming off a loss. I don't think Gonzaga has anywhere or near the defensive stability of a team like a Clemson. So I think Kentucky, Mark Pope, they find a way to get it done. This is going to be a very watchable game. I would love the over in this situation as well. Ant, who you got?
I have Gonzaga. I think they're going to have the better, more healthy backcourt in this game, and backcourts win college basketball. So I'm going with the Zags.
All right. Well, it looks like I'm the outlier. Come on. Back me up, Pope. Come on. Find a way to get this done. Let's get into Wisconsin at Marquette. A Big Ten, Big East battle here on Saturday. It's going to be at 1:30 on Big Fox. Mike, what is the matchup that you are looking to watch? Is it Cam Jones against John Tonji? How does this break down?
Yeah, I mean, it's a bounce back spot for both teams. Coming off of losses, both teams started 8-0, and you look at last year's matchup, and Cam Jones was the secondary ball handler last year, and he ate Wisconsin alive in ball screens. So we saw that with Michigan earlier this week too. And so how often do they go to that? How do they end up containing a guy like Cam Jones? Who do they stick on him? Klesmit got him a little bit last year. Chucky Hepburn had him a ton last year. We know how good Chucky is defensively, but then for Marquette, they couldn't keep Wisconsin off the foul line last year. They couldn't defend without fouling. Now you throw John Tonji into the mix and the rate at which he's getting to the line as well. I mean, Wisconsin shot 28 free throws in that game last year, and it ended up being really the difference. I mean, Wisconsin turned it over 14 times. I think they were only, maybe 20 7% from three, didn't shoot it particularly well, but they got to the line. So how do they fare against Cam Jones in those ball screens? And how does Marquette keep Wisconsin off the foul line when it's something they've done really well? The big picture, again, these two teams started 8-0, and there's a world where one of them is 8-3 because they both lost their last game. This is one that, they both have to have because their next games, Wisconsin goes to Illinois and Marquette goes to Dayton. So there's a world where you may have a 3-game skid for one of these teams, which is crazy.
Yeah, the big injury to keep an eye on for Marquette is Chase Ross, and he rolled his ankle against Iowa State on the road. So we'll see how that kind of plays out. Ant, what's the key to this matchup for you?
Can they keep John Tonji off the free throw line? I can see this dude going for at least 15 free throws. He went for at least 20 against Arizona. I want to see how quickly Marquette forces Wisconsin to go small. Because when they play UT Rio Grande Valley, Wisconsin tried to bully with their two bigs and it didn't work, and UT Rio Grande shot them out of that. Now, if UT RGV does that, Marquette's going to do that pretty quickly as well. So how quickly are they going to go to a Carter Gilmore off the bench, and how quickly are they going to go with just Nolan Winter at the big, or how quickly are they going to go with Xavier Amos off the bench? How quickly are they going to have to change the way that they play? Who is going to dictate their style of play first? Max Klesmit, make a shot, please. Please make a shot. Holy moly. Like last year, 38% from three. I swear, if you look at he cannot hit a shot to save his life right now. I think there's going to be a big game
against
for that.
Marquette last year. He was 5 for 10 from three against Marquette last year.
Need that because John Blackwell and Tanji are going to need some help. Kamari McGee, big energy guy, playing at least 20 minutes a game now. He needs to hit a couple big threes for them. Help out with that pressure. This isn't Purdue. This Wisconsin team has 2, 3, 4 guys who can attack off the bounce. Marquette just can't take out one guy and be okay. Wisconsin has guys who can create at all 3 levels.
Yeah, what I will say about this is I'm worried about the point guard spot, mostly because I feel like Wisconsin runs a lot of their offense through Steven Crowell. And the one thing that Marquette does is they get out and they press you and you don't really run your stuff. And sometimes they're switching, sometimes they're not, sometimes they're pressing. They're 5th in the country right now in defensive turnover rate. And I know Wisconsin doesn't turn the ball over, but I don't know if they face a team that is going to get out and guard you and pressure you the way that Marquette does. So that's something that I'll keep an eye on. I think Marquette finds a way to win this one. Mike, what do you got? I think the line is 7.5 right now at BetMGM.
Yeah, I got Marquette. I got Marquette to win the game. 7.5 is a lot because we know how Wisconsin gets to the line. And I will say, when I was talking about Klesmit shooting, my light that shines on my face here went out. So think about that if you're making your pick. So either that could be a good omen or a bad omen for Klesmit. That could be he's going to shoot the lights out.
He already shot the lights out, man. He already shot the lights out. I'm going Marquette.
People understand how bad it's been.
Yeah, look.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to say, I think Cam Jones, outside of Janai Broome, Cam Jones has been the best player in college basketball this year. He had a rough one at Iowa State. Everybody has a rough one at Iowa State. Nobody wins at Iowa State. And I think he's going to be pissed, and he's going to come back, and he's going to take it out on his in-state rivals. Give me Marquette. Ant?
Klesmit, 5 for his last 28 from 3. It's even worse than that. It's even worse than that. It's been so bad this year with Klesmit. Oh my gosh. I've got Marquette. I think Wisconsin can cover, but I've got Marquette. I just think Cam Jones is playing like a first-team All-American, and I think he's going to be too much. Even though Wisconsin did an outstanding job against Jalen Lowe at Pitt, I think Cam plays on another level.
All right, let's roll through the rest of these quickly. We'll start Kansas State at St. John's. Mike, who you got there?
St. John's.
Johnny's, baby. I think Rick Pitino is going to come out wearing like a Louis Carnesecca sweater in honor of the coach that passed away this week. You're not going to be the Johnnies on this night. Sorry, Tang. I love you, man, but not happening.
St. John's, Kansas State is not playing at a high level right now. All Johnnies.
Let's go to Rutgers and Ohio State. Ohio State coming off of a 387-point loss at Maryland. They're coming back home, and they get a Rutgers team that has two potential top 5 picks on it. Mike, who you got?
I got Rutgers. I want to see who guards Dylan Harper. Who can check Dylan Harper in this game? And this is the first true road game, Big Ten road game. I know they played at Kennesaw State. That didn't go well. But first true Big Ten road game for this Rutgers team. So that is a challenge in itself, but I'm gonna potentially be different here. I'm gonna go Rutgers.
Give me the Buckeyes. Bounce back spot. Ant, what do you got? Someone's got to win for Ohio State this year, right?
It's gonna be a bounce back for me. Rutgers, I think their only other true road game was at Kennesaw State, and they lost that one. I think Ohio State is just gonna control this game, and it's gonna be a big bounce back. Like, they got embarrassed. You know how those games are when you get embarrassed. You know those practices. You don't want that again. No, sir.
Mm-hmm. Nebraska at Michigan State, Mike.
This is the battle of two, I think, really good defensive teams. And I don't know. Again, I maybe just be trying to be different here. I got Nebraska. Win this game. I think they're going to force Michigan State to shoot threes because of the way Nebraska rotates. And it's going to be if Michigan State makes threes, they'll win this game. If they do not, which they haven't for a good portion of this year, I think Nebraska wins.
I like Michigan State here. I don't know. I feel like they kind of figured it out. They've been much maligned this offseason. Everyone's been complaining about their transfers and all that. They got a win over North Carolina. They beat the brakes off of Minnesota on the road, and their 2 losses were on neutrals to Kansas and to a Memphis team that is better than what their metrics say. Give me Sparty.
Nebraska's defense is for real. They are in East Lansing. I just think Michigan State is going to be able to pull this out. Boot and Gel for Nebraska. I love his game. I don't know why. Every time he touches the rock, just that European style, the European flow. Nebraska is going to get about 4 or 5 minutes to go like +8 or +9 on Michigan State when Izzo throws out like 4 power forwards and like a shooting guard. and we'll see what Nebraska does at that point in time. Remember me saying this, and then we're going to go and we're going to pull that line up, and they're going to go like -7 in like 2 minutes.
The Battle of the Ocean State, Mike. Providence at Rhode Island. Providence fans are telling me that this is going to be a home game for them, even though this is getting played in Kingston at Rhode Island. Who wins this game?
Oh, I'll keep this short and sweet. Give me Rhodey.
Rhodey, baby. People don't realize yet, Rhode Island is undefeated. They're no joke. They got a point guard named Sebastian Thomas, and he's a problem.
Providence, Big East, so they don't get in my mentions. I got bullied.
The PCBC's coming after you, man. All right. Georgia Tech at North Carolina. We had a long conversation on Wednesday night about whether or not North Carolina is any good this season. If they are any good, they take care of business at home against the Yellow Jackets. Mike, who you got?
I was going to say, I don't even know if we'll know if they're really good if they pull this game out. But I got Carolina.
Yeah, give me Carolina as well. And
Carolina get back game. Go Carolina.
Here's a fun one. Iowa, who is going to be I think that someone's injured for him. I saw it today. I can't remember who it was. Iowa at Traore, yeah. Iowa at Michigan. The battle of who'd you call the Jack Nungy All-Star? It's like I think Danny Wolf.
Nate Biddle was the Jack Nungy of Luke Cornett's.
Yeah, the Jack Nungy. Well, I think Danny Wolf is the Jack Nungy of point guard. So Who you
Of
got
Nikola
here?
Jokic's.
Yeah.
I'll go Michigan. Again, they were so impressive in that game against Wisconsin. I mean, just their inverted ball screens, what they were doing with Wolf, how they can spread you out. It's nice seeing them have a competent offense with moving and spacing and skill. So give me Michigan.
Yeah, I'm going with Michigan. I low-key kind of think Michigan might be like a top 15 team in America. Ant, you're a Wolverine. What do you got?
Yeah, give me Michigan, but I do think Iowa's going to be well prepared in this game. I think they're going to throw a lot of weird zones, a lot of weird half court stuff. They're going to want to turn Michigan over. When Michigan turns the ball over, they go from top 15 to bottom 15 very, very quickly. And they've turned the ball over, I'm talking about 3-4 times within like 30 seconds. It's the craziest thing that I've ever seen. If Michigan turns the ball over, they turn into a team that I don't even recognize.
And over under 2.5 turnovers for Danny Wolf against the Iowa token 2-2-1, 1-2-2 press.
Over. I think he has 3 or 4 turnovers. Hey, dude, Danny throws a lot of 50-50s. He throws a lot of 50-50 passes, man, and he can ramp over his turnovers quite a bit. Hey, when it's working, it's beautiful. It's beautiful. But there were times when people were like DMing me like, who's this Danny Wolf guy? He sucks. I'm like, bro, relax. Like, the dude is crazy talented. Trust me. Just got to take care of the rock.
All right. Butler at Houston. Butler is the biggest underdog that we have in this pick section. They're 16.5-point dogs, according to BetMGM. They do not have a point guard on their roster, or someone that I would consider a solid ball handler. Mike, is there any chance that they can go to the Fertitta Center and beat a Houston team that is one of the best defensive teams in the country without a point guard?
Rob, no, they cannot do that. I'll just keep it straight. I mean, I like Houston to win. I like Houston to cover as well. They've had some time off, eight days or so to kind of rejuvenate after Vegas. I like Houston.
That's about how long it takes me to rejuvenate after Vegas as well. Give me Houston. And
give me Houston. They're 4-3, but those 3 losses are by like a combined like 12 or 13 points or something. Like, this is still a very, very good, very dangerous team. And you know what? They play defense. They can also shoot the blood out the ball too. So it's going to be a tough one for Butler tomorrow.
Last one we got, St. Mary's at Utah. Mike, can the Gales get this done?
They cannot, unfortunately. Well, I guess in theory they could, but in my mind, I'm going Utah.
Give me St. Mary's. Give me Augustus Marshallonis. Give me Paulius Morauskas. Give me all of these guys with these Lithuanian names that I probably pronounced wrong. St. Mary's ball screen offense. They're going to get the job done here. And
man, give me St. Mary's. This is like the first time that I've ever went with, because I always used to call them St. Middies. So this is one of those teams. I'm on St. Mary's side because I don't like anything from Utah. So shout out to St. Mary's, ready to go.
Yeah, if you guys see that QR code right there above Ant's head, you can scan that and come play along and prove how smart you are. I'm going to go ahead and guess right now that Mike's going to win. He's on the island with like 4 of these, and knowing him, that he knows a lot more about basketball than I do. So I'm just going to say you probably want to be on the other side from me, which means Ant, I don't know if you know ball, man. Sorry. Let's get into toast tonight. And then we can wrap it up.
I picked a few teams that were road Big Ten wins, and that has not happened much so far to start Big Ten play. I will say that. Michigan State went on the road to Minnesota, so I'm really going against the grain.
All right, Mike, give me your toast of the night. What do you got?
Toast of the night.
Will he do it? Will he do it? There's one team that beat a ranked team today. Will he do it? Will he do it? And will he do it?
I'll say this. My toast of the night goes to Nick Martinelli. Okay. It goes to Nick Martinelli for the Northwestern Wildcats. 25 points in the second half and or 23 points in the second half and overtime. He's been just a revelation for them this year, and so it pains me, but I'll give Nick Martinelli his flowers.
Ant?
I mean, that would have been mine, so I got to go with somebody else. Omar Ballo, he had 14, 18, and 6 today. Very sexy stat line.
That is.
I'll go with that.
Is. I'm going to go with your guy, and my toast tonight is going to go to Javon Small, who is a guy I think been underrated nationally. No one really appreciates how good he was at East Carolina. No one appreciated how good he was at Oklahoma State, and I don't think he's getting anywhere near the attention that he deserves. He had 26 and 3 assists against Georgetown today. He had 31 the other night in the win over Gonzaga, and he is averaging 20 points, 4 rebounds, and 4 assists, plus 2.5 steals while shooting 44% from the floor, 41% from 3, and 84% from the free throw line. Mike, according to my sources, those are good numbers. Listen, gentlemen, it's been a blast. We got a lot of Big Ten ground covered on today's episode. I'm glad to have you two guys on here to be able to talk about the Mid-10 and to be able to break that down. Ant. So we'll be back. We'll be back tomorrow night. We'll have a show.
That's the Mid-East spokesman talking.
The Mid-East for the last 8 national titles, baby. When was the last time the Big Ten had one of those?
Oh, brother. Jay Wright ain't walking through that door.
I was 7.
He is not walking through that door. That is confirmed. I was. Yeah, hey, and it is officially Mike LaTulip's birthday. He is 41 now? 45? 48?
Yeah, but he's probably Central. You Central, Mike?
No, I'm East. Indy's Eastern time somehow. I don't know.
Shout out East Coast.
Yeah, 31.
Happy
so
birthday,
no place
Mike.
I'd rather be. Yeah.
Yeah. So with that in mind, we should have all toasted to Mike LaTulip to his birthday. Happy birthday, Mike. And appreciate you being here for our producer, Dagan Hughes. This has been fun, guys. We'll see you guys tomorrow night, 11 o'clock, Field of 68 after dark.